r/AskReddit by Reddit and chill. What is something that you used to do as a kid and only realized years later to be extremely inappropriate? NSFW. I always said good riddance to people because I thought it was a classy goodbye. Alright honey, say goodbye to grandma. She's going on vacation for a long time now. Good riddance. Uncle Paul has cancer. It might be the last time you say goodbye. Good riddance. It's what grandma would have wanted. My brother learned that sexy was a bad word, but didn't know what it meant. Bad meaning inappropriate. He was like 6. Once, he got mad at me at a family gathering, threw a fit, and screamed that I was sexy. It was incredibly fucking awkward. Edit. For those asking, I am a guy. Also, this isn't the first time my brother has confused words. He thought scrape and rape were the same thing. This reminds me of the phase my sister went through where she had learned a vocab word haughty in school and wanted to show off. She would get mad at my brother and storm off saying, "You're such a haughty." He kept telling her she wasn't using it right, but she was too stubborn to listen to him. My little brother used to say, "Oh, so buxom," whenever he saw a pretty girl when he was about 4-7ish. Did he then try to get a better look through his monocle? Being a girl, I got a lot of baby dolls when I was young. This being the late 80s and early 90s. A lot of them were pretty fucking hideous. So I did what any girl would do in that situation. I scribbled over their faces with a red marker, then hosted a public execution for them for the crime of being ugly. I'd hang them with yarn and scrunchies around their necks, then buried them in the back of my closet to be forgotten about. I had my cutest stuffed animals and dolls watch, so they'd know what happened to ugly people. I was bullied a lot. Oh sweetheart, I'm so sorry. I used to make my ugly toys face the wall. Because only beautiful toys deserve love, I was also heavily bullied. All came to an end when we went on a family vacation and we went to a bird feeding park. And nobody was feeding this one bird with a twisted beak. My heart broke. I spent hours with the little guy. My mother kept trying to convince me to look at the other birds too. Her go-to comment was, "Come feed these birds, sweetie. Look how pretty they are." I snapped back that just because they're pretty doesn't mean they deserve my food. I know now she was just trying to get me to stop following around one single, at this point mildly freaked out, bird. But at the time I felt like the pretty birds were being treated better for being pretty. Somewhat similar but not really. About 11 years ago I was at a convention thing. There was a company there that you could sponsor children in developing nations. You'd look at their picture, read a small bio and decide if you wanted to spend $30 a month on this kid. I noticed that everyone was only picking the cute kids to sponsor. I saw this one kid that had a pretty significant birthmark on his face and everyone would just brush past him. It broke my heart. So I have now been sponsoring him for 11 years. During the night, rather than get up and get a tissue, I would put my boogers on the wall behind my bed. Apparently boogers turn into cement over time, and my mom was none too pleased when she moved the bed to paint the wall and found my masterpiece. This was my crime too. The wall looked like the inside of a cave by the time I'd finished. Today we are observing the natural habitat of U/Pitesari's wall in his room. This period of time for him can be related to the 1849 California gold mine. Cause he was always digging for gold. It is amazing though how creatures so young and primitive can create art of such many different colors. However, the mother is quoted to be generally teed off by such art and the kid replies, "You do not understand mother, stay tuned next week where we explore Arp's mom's v. What a wide cavern that is." Edit. Obligatory highest rated comment is this and obligatory statement saying how crazy it is. I kid you not. But my sister had a phase where she used to scratch her head so that the dandruff in her head would accumulate under her nails, which she would then proceed to dig it out and scrape it neatly on a wall next to where she was studying. It was kinda weirdly obsessive, but I was a kid and I just thought it was cool. Now, it makes me gag. The flower game. I would push my N inside of my body and laugh hysterically as it grew out of me again. I showed everyone this. Usually with guerrilla tactics and ambush methods that would make Sun TZU proud. I used to fill my foreskin up with water when I showered and then shoot it out like a water gun. Only person I showed was an ex-girlfriend who found it hilarious. Man, now I want some foreskin. Foreskin master race. I used to sneak into my elderly neighbor's house and hide behind the couch. She would call my mom and tell her whenever I was over there so that my mom wouldn't freak out wondering where the hell I was. I also had a habit of just barging into my best friend's house whenever I felt like. No one taught me about knocking or doorbells. Apparently. You were apparently a 1980s sitcom character. There are reasons why there are no southern-based TV sitcoms. Except for Andy Griffith's show, Designing Women, and others. I took one of those disposable cameras and took pictures of me nude at like 5 years old and buried them like time capsules. Wow, your poor former neighbor is going to have some explaining to do. Jared, IDK, he was always inside doing weird stuff. Exposed undeveloped film goes bad. I was so proud of not having a gag reflex I told everyone I met. 12-year-old me would tie cherry stems in knots with my tongue. I proclaimed that I was very talented with my mouth at a big family dinner. Honestly, that is actually talented. Guys like me are built for the girls who do have gag reflexes. I used to call black people chocolate people. I did that too. My brother and I only knew one black person when we were little. We couldn't remember his name, so we called him the Chocolate Stranger. He was super nice and thought it was funny. The Chocolate Stranger sounds like a child serial killer with a white panel van. Depending on how old you were, that is adorable. I literally head-butted men in their crotch, though it wasn't very forcefully. You can imagine their reactions when a 5-year-old little Asian girl greeted them that way. Head on. Apply directly to the forehead. Lolacash. Seems like it pays well. When I was a kid I was a super tomboy, so all of my friends were boys. I think they kind of accepted me as one of their own and gender never really became a consideration. At least that is my theory as to why this happened. I was hanging out with my bestie Eli in my bedroom. Back when I was like 6. He told me he wanted to play a game that all the boys in the class had played and I couldn't tell anyone. They called it the end game. Before I could even react, he whipped it out. Apparently the point was just to show it. I told him I didn't want it. A couple weeks later, I really wanted a sleepover with him. My parents said no, and I thought I wasn't allowed because he was a boy, which is actually plausible. So, in my brilliance, I told them it's fine. I can sleep over, because I've already seen his N. That didn't go over well. Can't imagine why not. I told them it's fine. I can sleep over, because I've already seen his N. And I couldn't tell anyone. One job. When I was 11 my family got cable and we sat down to watch Good Morning Vietnam. When Robin Williams said, "You're in more dire need of a blowjob than any white man in history," I turned to my mother and said, "Mom, what's a blowjob?" I had never seen her cringe in my life until that moment. But in a rare show my dad came to her rescue and said, "She doesn't know." That is a great dad joke. Brutal. I used to hump my bed. People would come over and come say hi to me in my bedroom and there I was 6 years old taking my twin bed for a vigorous ride through Pound Town. Choo choo. When we were about 6 or 7, my friend and I, both female, used to play house. For some reason, it was decided that I was the house. I would lie on the floor and she would cover me with a blanket. My limbs were different rooms. My head was the bathroom. Edit. It figures. My most popular comment on Reddit is about a girl sitting on my face. Also, no bodily functions ever happened. She would literally just sit on my blanket covered head. Girls have poor fort skills so they do what they can. WTF haha. Did she pee in your mouth? Dude, that's hilarious. So when I was around 6-7, someone kept tagging all the signposts around our area with black stickers with orgy written on them in neon orange or neon green. After I kept seeing them I asked in front of the whole family what's an orgy. My sisters, 17/18 at the time, looked very uneasily at my parents and they managed to come up with the answer, "It's a party." I replied, "I want to go to an orgy." Oh damn. I remember orgy. They covered a New Order song. Ding dong ditch. I did it so much and I didn't understand why people got mad. But I would get so mad now if some little shit did that at my house. I had some kids do this at my house a few weeks ago at 4 AM. Thing is, I have insomnia and I happened to be awake and on the couch near the door. I wrenched it open and yelled at them while they were still right on my porch. You should have seen their faces. They should have been commended for not pissing their pants. Edit an important word. Some kids in my neighborhood were tagging shit, and so being the sleep deprived person I am, I waited and waited till I saw some movement on the wall across the street. I looked out the window and saw 2 kids tagging a wall. I crept outside and then bolted towards them. I managed to grab one by his jacket and lift him up against the wall while his friend left his behind. He was crying that it was fake snow in a spray can. So I let him down and checked out the wall, and it was. I look back and the kid had pissed himself. That will teach that ucker to spread holiday cheer. Not me, but my older sister. Background: I have a very racist grandpa. We've been trying to correct him for years, and he's finally gotten to the point where he thinks there are a few good blacks. Horrible, but still a major improvement. Anyway, one time the window of his truck got broken and he complained about how it was the goddamn NRS in front of my sister. As 2-year-olds so often do, she modeled his behavior. Apparently it took a long time for my sister to stop yelling, "You goddamn haggers," at any black people she saw. Thank God she mispronounced it. Hermie, way hagger. r/unexpected Hogwarts. Ostfugorpi. I'm tired of your shit. Gonna go ang with Arisumo. The whole gender thing confused me when I was a kid. I went to everyone I met and asked whether they had a N or a V. Most found it funny, but some people weren't amused. Edit. Today I learned I am Goku. Edit 2. Today I learned I am also Professor Oak. My mom likes to tell anyone who will listen about the time I proudly told her that mine was growing. I'm a girl with older brothers and thought I was growing again. How's it coming along? Have you grown your condom yet? Breathing by using my V. Try it in the bathtub. You can shoot out water and pretend you're squid. It's so amazing. Edit. You/should be working. Thou hast plucked mine golden cherry. WTF. You're a kid now. I did all these weird sexual things with my next door neighbor when we were 6. We'd kiss and touch each other's butts. Nothing more than that. But we're both girls, and now she's a super Christian churchgoer who posts and shares Bible quotes and stories about waiting for a man with the right values. I did those things with a neighbor too. Except it continued until we were around 9 or so. We also used to play at pretend sex. I had gotten my hands on a children's biology book that described the mechanics of sex, and while playing house we would basically hump each other with our clothes on, and kiss, and basically pat each other's bodies where we were told we weren't supposed to touch each other. Our parents never found out and just thought we were super close because we would request sleepovers all the time. And then we had a huge fight in 4th grade and never talked to each other again. I think I discovered masturbation with a detachable shower head soon after that. Stick my finger up my butt then make my mom smell it. I don't remember why, but it seemed like a good idea at the time. I had a friend who got mad at his mom, so he stuck her pen in his behind in front of her. We were like 12 or so. I just said, "Wow, you sure showed her." Wrecked. Hump the bed while watching trashy people on daytime talk shows, not knowing why it felt good. I still do it, but at least now I know why. It's called prone masturbation and it can cause problems if you still do it. Had a pee corner in my bedroom for a few months when I was 6. Edit. So apparently I'm not alone in this. Must be something about the rush of peeing where you're not supposed to that intrigues a lot of us. Why not a pee box? Thought no one could see how my hand in my pocket gripped my erections. Glorious haiku. It's snowing on MT Fuji. Let me tell you, my Barbie dolls got around. Little kid life pretty. If you use a rubber band, you can make your Barbies hump forever. Luckily I wasn't the only one. I actually created elaborated stories for my Barbie dolls that could easily belong to a soap opera. Sex, cheating, murder, followed by a trip abroad, and gay relationships. I was like 10. Me too. It wasn't just Barbie either. All the toys were in sexy relationships. Barbie even got a sex change once. If you use a rubber band, you can make your Barbies hump forever. I don't know if I want to ask, but I cannot imagine how this works. I called fat people fat. I'd just see a fat person and say, "Mom, look, that person is fat." Or, just like on Reddit, "Shut it, fatty McFaduck." I still remember the time my brother shouted that SA fat man and pointed at some poor guy passing us on the street. Not me, but at the DMV the other day, this 5-year-old kid kept slapping his mom's behind. I'm picturing this overconfident a 5-year-old with Ray-Bans thinking he's all top shit just because he won the jackpot in Vegas one time. I slapped my grandma in the face while she was sleeping because I watched too many Spanish telenovelas and wanted to know how it feels like to slap someone. My female cousin was an early bloomer, around 10, the both of us, so when we were together, we used to wrestle each other like on WWE. Strange looks from parents ensued and I realized how weird that was. If you're female and you have brothers, this is just normal everyday life, even when you're adults. When I was in like 4th grade I would take booty pics on my mom's camera. Your username just reminded me of when I typed teepba.com into my home computer when I was like 10. A picture of a girl wearing American flag boots, jean shorts and American flag PP tassels popped up. I got so scared that my mom would find out that I unplugged the monitor and hid it in the basement. But later that day my mom asked where the monitor went and I said I didn't know. They found it in the laundry room where I hid it under some dirty clothes and never said anything else about it. I also thought TV was called a bar china. Childhood was weird. Wait, did you only unplug the monitor? Because if you did then your parents still got to see what you were looking at when they turned the monitor back on. He has already been humiliated enough. Rubbed myself every day after school in the living room until I got the body tingles. I had a bed frame that had wooden beams over the top of my bed. When you're lying down there was an H pattern when you look straight up. I had a favorite blanket that I would hang over the middle beam of the H and swing from it. One day I decided to do it naked and while gripping the blanket tightly with my thighs I squished my little guy down there against the blanket in a way that felt nice. So I continued to clap my thighs together until I suddenly had those body tingles for the first time ever. I continued to do this so much that my upper body was so strong from holding myself up that I could do unassisted pull-ups at the age of 10. And since me swinging on my bed was kind of a regular occurrence, my parents would write it off as me playing Tarzan. I miss that bed. I'm a female, and I used to masturbate at school when I was quite young. I remember being 6 and 7 and dropping down, touching myself, and carrying on my merry way. I had literally no idea this was a problem. No one told me, till my mom talked to me about it years later. Just kind of brought it up in passing in grade 6. Didn't give me a talking to or anything. Too long didn't read. I used to get down and full on masturbate in class, on the field at recess. Had no idea it was a thing or an issue. Just felt good. GF is a teacher. She tells me these things happen every day. They would mostly rub themselves on the chair and start breathing heavily. Not me, but still relevant. I was at my uncle's 50th birthday party this summer. The morning after about 40 people came back over for breakfast. We were all hungover outside and my 10-year-old cousin started yelling happily. We all looked over and he was peeing on the fence, cheering happily because his pee was split into 2 streams, leaving wet marks on the wood. My uncle told him to stop but he didn't. He kept obnoxiously cheering and telling everybody to look. So my uncle walks over and whispers something to him. The pee slowly stopped like when you put a kink in a hose. My uncle explained to him that he was basically announcing to almost 50 people that he masturbated the night before. He stayed in his room until everybody left. It was so cringy. You're all just here. Pee split in 2 could just mean that he hadn't peed for a long time. Or that he had just woken up. It doesn't necessarily mean that he fapped or had sex. I've had split streams without masturbating, rarely, but I've had asking my boy neighbors to flash me their NS. We were like 7. Edit for clarification. When I was 2 I used to think the word was a term of endearment. Edit. What makes the story funny, as opposed to what many have pointed out. My parents are happily married. They just celebrated their 30 years last week. As a child I thought tourists and S were the same thing and couldn't for the life of me understand why we'd allow so many in our country. Why aren't you at the Republican debate? Oh god, I remember this and cringe just thinking how awkward it was for my parents to watch. When I was little, about age 6 through 9, I was obviously out of the loop on anything sexual, especially masturbating. We had one of those electric brushes used to massage your scalp. I used it while watching TV with my parents. Right in the crotch area. I used to cover myself with a pillowcase or something. I guess I always knew it was kind of wrong. The worst of all, everyone could hear the loud buzzing coming between my legs. Not really inappropriate, but more extremely dangerous. My dad had this old station wagon from the late 1970s throughout most of my childhood that I thought was amazing. It was big and there was so much to play in the back. Sometimes I would put on puppet shows for the cars behind us in traffic when we stopped at a red light. As dangerous as it was for a small child to be loose in the back of station wagon without a seatbelt, I used to play an even more dangerous game sometime. I would lay across the top of the back seat and try to remain as stiff as possible. When my dad would brake accelerate, the momentum would cause my body to fall either on the cushioned seat in front of me or on the old couch cushions my dad had put in the back. I thought it was so much fun to roll and fall one way, then get back up and fall the other, and I would play this game a lot. It wasn't until years later that I realized how dangerous that was. I was a kid just openly playing a falling game in the back of a station wagon. Luckily, my dad is a great driver and we never got into any accidents. But if we did, I would have gone flying out the front or back windows and probably killed instantly. Here is a picture of my dad in that station wagon. We used to call that space the very back. Or back. The butt parade. My older sister and I, a dude, used to come downstairs, get naked, get on all fours, put our butts together, and waddle around the house announcing that the butt parade was coming to town. Not me, but my nephew, who will realize it's massively inappropriate because I keep recording it because it's fucking hilarious. He humps the floor, like straight up pushes his little 3-year-old crotch into the ground and gyrates. Doesn't matter where he is or who is watching. He cannot resist that sexy floor. It's got to the point now where his parents have to reward him for not humping the floor. My cousin and I used to tie each other up when we were around 7-9 years old. Very sexual and awkward. For the brief moment I was into the WWF and WCW, I would run around and do the suck it symbol while screaming suck it in an angry voice. My mom wasn't too happy when she got a phone call from my school. Ducking, like and subscribe.